Hello, welcome to another toneless landscape oil painting demonstration. This is your painter in residence, M. Francis McCarthy. And the painting I'm bringing you today is called Into the Clearing. It's a 5x10 and I painted this yesterday. I'm working on some hardboard. It's been primed with 2 coats of transparent gesso. That's a question I get quite a lot, so it's always good to get that out there because it doesn't look like there's anything on that board. I tend to oil it out a little bit before I start to as well, just so I can see the actual color of the board. Also allows me to do some erasing. I'm doing my underpainting right now with some burn umber, and sometimes, a lot of times I use burn umber. I like burn umber, especially for scenes that have a real preponderance of green in them, because this sets up a bit of a little complementary zing going on, you know, with the bits of red that are inevitably going to be peeking out. That was a bit of paper towel. You see, I'm just kind of, I like to, rather than painstakingly indicate every little bit of foliage, I get in there and start maybe with a paper towel. Now, this painting is also in the members area where it's real time, about 2.5 hours. And you get to see the reference image at the beginning with some notes about that. Verbal notes, of course, and also full color mixing session. So for those of you that are really interested in that aspect of my process, try joining the members area. It's pretty cheap. It's only $6 a month, and you can tip in, tip out. People do all the time. Yep. Anyway, yeah, burn number. And so you see I kind of set things up with the paper towel a little bit, and then I come in with the brush. Currently that brush is a pretty cheap little DOS brush. And funny enough, you know, I got a jar of brushes, and I kind of, you know, search my feelings. Luke, search your feelings for the right brush prior to starting. I'm sure you do the same. But having the right brush for the right job is pretty critical, actually. Some brushes might be too stiff or too stubby or too loose, too big, too small. There's a lot of ways to go wrong. This painting really is a big play on dealing with greens, and I'm real happy with the way this drawing came out. I'm pretty stoked, actually. I think it came out quite sound. Now, when I do this sort of scene, this is like a little forested scene. I'll do the drawing / underpainting, and then usually the lightest bits of the sky, nearly the lightest. I will tend to go a couple notches lighter after I have most of the color in. Now I tend to, one of the reasons I think the underpainting / drawing is really critical, because it helps you solve a lot of problems, most of the compositional issues, and even some of the basic value issues. You get your ducks lined up so that when it comes time to jump in with the color, you already have a framework that you can work with. Now, some people just like to work with big blocks of color, but you could see, like a scene like this, I mean, that would be, I don't know, not the best approach, I would think. Then again, I don't work that way. I always do some kind of little drawing or underpainting. After the lights are in, so the way I see it, you know, we have the lightest bit. Now all the land elements are going to work from darkest out to medium, and then into the lightest light of the light greens and of the foliage. And they're going to kind of meet those lights of the sky. So that's my approach, and very consistent with that. In fact, I'm very consistent with my approach pretty much across the board, regardless of what sort of scene I'm going after. And the reason for that is because it works. It works very well. And some people say, well, you should change it up, bro, you know. And my feeling about that is that the scenes change. The moment-by-moment decisions definitely change. But the basic framework or structure of my painting process remains pretty consistent. Of course, sometimes, like here, we're working on cardboard, which has a bit of a reddish tint. There are times and cases where I might work on gray, or I might work on some of the recent textured boards. I've paintings I did with the textured boards. I have used like an ochre / raw sienna sort of color. Yeah, But all in all, for most of what I do, this kind of red peeking through and around really helps give it that kind of buzz. Not often do I decide that I'm going to do the grass first. Normally it would be trees, but you know, these ideas pop in my head, and what I did, and again, this is a little more fully covered in the members area, but for that darkest green down on the bottom, that's a bit of the Mike's green, which is acrylite yellow with some black to give you a nice green. And there I added a bunch of alizarin crimson and to get the dark tone. A lot of you have been with me a while, so you may know this already, but some of you might be new and may appreciate this information. This is a green painting, and the key to getting great greens is to not only have a lot of red peeking through from your background, your underpainting, but also to throw a lot of reds in those green mixtures. So many painters starting out really go wrong there because they'll squeeze out some phthalo green and some yellow, and or maybe they'll mix the yellow with blue. And now, if you a bit of an evolution is, of course, to realize that yellow plus black makes an awesome green. The reason I like favor the acrylite yellow is because it's a little bit more transparent than the cad yellow that's normally on my palette. Now, we're going to have a quick little breeze through the book here coming up. If you haven't bought the book, you might want to get it. I'm getting questions from people all the time. All these questions are answered in the book. Okay, that's why I made the book. It's not cheap. You know, I basically have a pretty high shipping bill here out of New Zealand, which is very, very far away from every other place. But I've had nothing but good feedback on it, honestly. There's a chock-a-block of information, and of course beautiful paintings and demonstrations, and you name it, it's all in there. So check it out. There'll be a link underneath the video, a bunch of links on my site. You send me an order, I'll send you a book. Oh, I'm still signing and numbering them, by the way, so I'll keep doing that for, you know, until at least maybe some big time publisher picks it up, which we don't know if that'll ever happen. They don't really want to deal with me right now, I guess. Anyway, so you can see things are starting to come together, looking pretty attractive. One thing I wanted to impart to you is that I have on the lawn area, the grass area, it's a cooler green. It's more of a phthalo base, where although there is some Mike's green mixed in, and then the permanent green light, which is a phthalo-based mixture as well. But up in the trees, I get more into the Mike's green with a lot more reds, a lot more burnt sienna. In the shadow areas, more of that alizarin crimson, and highlight areas, we tend to favor colors like orange. Although I did start bringing in, like, see that little passage I'm doing there now, I brought in some white there because I kind of wanted that to be behind other things and sort of suffused in light. And so, generally speaking though, when it comes to greens, I hold off on adding any white at all, and there's plenty of times when no white ever occurs. What I prefer to do is to go with something like, say, yellow ochre. Now that's only get things so light. When I do bring in white, and again, if you're in the members area, you're going to hear this all the time because you're there with me as I'm doing the live painting sessions. When I do white, when I add the white, I always bring in another color. So if I'm going to add some white, I bring in some yellow, and that's what, you know, as you know, I'm sure you're a painter, you use most of your white up in the sky area, right? It's not often that you throw it into the land, and it will tend to give you very muted greens and tans and things like that. Anyway, I thought the composition of this piece was pretty cool. It was actually the reference image, really pushing that members area of this video, but the reference image, which you can see in the members area, was not that inspiring, but I saw a lot of potential in it. And so This is a case where the final painting is a lot more interesting, has a lot more vibrance and color than and congruence than the reference image. Usually with my reference images, I try to just create something that I feel is inspiring. I'm not trying to create a work of art with the reference. Oh, one thing I want to point out, you see in our right side that little bit of grass there where I just painted that really bright yellowy green. You'll notice that I blocked off the edge there. I could have had that bright yellow green going all the way off the side, but doing something like that is really going to mess with your composition in a way, at least to the degree of it, the eye of the viewer might just go running right out the painting. And so what you really want to do is move the viewer's eye around through the painting. Obviously they can look away at some point, but I tend to, it's not even that I sit there and go, all right, they're going to start looking at this, and then they'll look at this, and then they'll look at that. But in this case, I think, in many cases, I believe, I try to get people to sort of start on the lower our left side, move in and around through the shapes, and just kind of, this almost has a bit of a circular kind of motif, although it doesn't look circular. I would say the composition is basically kind of a circle, in that you're kind of going around and around those trees, and the shapes are interesting and have the most amount of contrast. Now, contrast in your, you notice that I didn't put a lot of really darks anywhere but in the vertical masses of the trees, and that was because basically I see them as the subject, and the area of greatest amount of contrast is going to be the subject almost always. Yeah. Also, if you don't know this, maybe just make a little note that the darkest areas in almost any painting are going to be the vertical darks, not the horizontal darks. So you don't want to be painting shadows or things on your ground plane overly dark, although there are, of course, times when you don't have to worry about it. Yeah. I had a lot of fun painting these trees. In fact, this whole painting came together really quite smoothly. It was a real pleasure to do. One thing I remember imparting this, since so much of it's fresh in my mind since I just painted it yesterday. When you're doing things like trees, don't get too finicky, and do not keep referring to the reference and painstakingly bringing some element or aspect of the reference over into your painting. Deal with the impression that you get, and once you've got something on the painting surface, work with making that look interesting, and don't overwork. Really what you want to do is move through the whole painting in a sort of calm and organized fashion. That's how I like to proceed. I'm not looking for flashy rainbow light or lightning bolts of inspiration to strike me and drive me. I'm looking for inspiration to arrive in each stroke, so to speak, and every stroke becomes something that's a part of the painting and really in the past. So you got to keep forging ahead, but always have respect for what you've done already in the painting. That's another great tip. I passed it on before, but don't be obliterating on your work over and over in the pursuit of perfection. That's what's ruining a lot of your paintings. Anyway, I can see we're close to the end. Hopefully you enjoyed watching this video. You got a few good tips and ideas from me there. Support the channel any way you can. Leave me a comment, or I'll buy the book. Or my favorite way to be supported is when people go to my store and buy one of my paintings. a whole bunch of nice little ones there that aren't expensive. So go do that right now. Also, there's a donation at the site too, and as well as underneath this video. So if you got a little extra dosh, send them my way. Until I come back with another video, do me a favor, do me a solid. Take good care of yourself, your family, all your loved ones. Stay out of trouble, and God bless you and your family.